Welcome everyone, this is Decomposer, and I am doing an instructional video on the Roland P-6. Since it's still pretty new, I thought there were not very many instructional videos out on the internet's inner tubes on how to actually use this thing. So we're going to go over some basics from a novice to you all. The Roland P-6 is a handy little sampler that I picked up just a few months ago. I bought it myself. This is not a paid endorsement or anything like that. I just thought it was really cool, and it's the first straight sampler that I've owned, and I think it has a lot of really amazing capabilities. So let's get into it. This is the first beat that I fully made and then actually saved. It took me a while to figure out actually how to save this. Since the IRA compact series are so small, there's a lot of functionality hidden on every single key. Multiple keys do multiple things, and it gets kind of confusing when you're first starting out. The thing that was best for me is just playing around with it, and it helped also that I watched a few other people play around with it too. Some quick basics. This is the play button. Use it to play the beat that you made or of the many factory samples and patterns that are already pre-made. To go through them, you'll click Pattern, scroll around. It has two whole banks of pre-made patterns. Correction, it has one bank of pre-made patterns. Bank 1, 1 through 16. There's a wide variety of EDM genres. This light is counting all the different steps in your sequence, and this is the tempo wheel that it controls how fast you're going through those steps. All of these are two banks of samples each button: A, E, B, F, C, G, and D, H. Each of those will switch between groups of 6 different samples. B, F, E, A, C, G. Then you can record 6 per bank. Since there are 8 banks, 6 per bank, that's 48 different samples you can do. And that's not including creating a complex sample, turning it into granular mode, and then creating a whole song just from one sample chopped into bits, if you like. What I mean by that is that you can take a complex sample like this, then cut up each of those hi-hats and each of those snares into its own sound using the start and end position. Then you can add that on different steps. That's a bit too much. So every 4. Now I'm going to go over how to make your first beat. So first you're going to want to find some sounds you like. I'm going to go with this F bank. It's got some easy kicks, hi-hats, a little bit of sounds. If I wanted to, I could add sounds from every bank to the sequence. But we're just going to go with one bank, keep it limited, then we won't be stuck with decision paralysis. You're going to want to start with something that kind of speaks to you on what you want to start with. I'm feeling this kick drum, so I'm going to start with that. I'm going to make sure that I'm on an empty pattern. Since that beat in the beginning was on number 1, I'm going to go with number 2. Press the pattern. You can either move this wheel to find number 2, or you can also press the second key to select that pattern. Now that I have the sound and the empty pattern, I'm going to do this every 4 beats. Now that you have your kick, I'm going to try this hi-hat. Kind of like the sound of that. So I'm going to do it, I think it's every other. So in music terms, our kick is every 4, once per bar, basically. If each of these is a bar of music of 4/4 time. Our hi-hat is every other bar, once per bar. Next I'm going to take this complex beat and just take one of the snare drum sounds. I'm just changing where this sample starts and ends. Now I have like a double snare hit. I don't really like that as much, so I'm going to play around with it a little bit more. Okay, I play around with it a little bit more, and I got this kind of like, I don't know. It reminds me of early computer sounds back in the 90s. What I did was just keep playing around with these start and stop knobs, and then I actually use the reverse function right here. Under loop, you press shift. So that's the normal forward sound. Reversed it. I'm happy with that for now. What should I add next? I'm liking this kind of ambient drone for a background. It kind of gets out of hand and starts getting distorted and everything. So you just got to end it before that. It's this reversed kind of chord. See how I have it on loop mode? That means it's going to stay on as we play it, rather than just playing a quarter note of this sample. So instead of having it every beat or a solid bar, the way you work with loop mode is you actually are telling it when to start and when to stop. And one thing we haven't done much with so far is the pitch wheel, where we can actually change how high and low the notes are. I'm liking that, kind of like a minor. Sounds dreary. I think I'm going to break this up into 2 different bars. So now it has one start, one end, a second start, and a second end. And I think I'm going to add some texture with a lo-fi button here. Yeah, I'm liking that. And lastly, let's add some melodic elements. I'm liking this, I don't know, like a muted bell. And we're gonna put it in keyboard mode here. That lets us play this across the keyboard, as if it was a synth. That mostly works for live mode. If you want to add a step sequence of each note, you have to change it by semitones, which is a little bit more complicated than this video allows. This is if you want to feel the groove, play it in live mode, you can play it across the keyboard. Which is great for coming up with ideas or just really kind of enjoying yourself. For this application though, in the step sequence that we're building, you're just gonna feel what sounds right. I think I like that. So this is basically halfway in between where our other drone is happening. Every other one. All right, off camera I just swapped around a little bit of the levels of each of these. I felt like some of the samples were a bit too loud, so I just went through each one, set them to the volume that I wanted. It's better if you do that when you're starting off, but as the mix progressed, I decided I wanted the bass less and some of the snares a little bit more defined. And when you're happy with it, you're gonna write it to one of your empty patterns. Shift, down here, it says write. It's gonna ask you if you wanna write all of it, and you do. So then you're gonna press enter. It's going to ask you to stop it first. Now it should be written. And that's pretty much it. After you're saved, you can test your might by seeing if it actually saved by switching between the different patterns, and looks like I successfully did it. There's been a few times where I did it wrong somehow and then lost all my work, unfortunately. That's most of the info that I can cover in this very basic tutorial. I found that a lot of the stuff that's already on the internet included many advanced techniques, which are fantastic for midway through your journey or as you're becoming a master at this, but it seems so hard to find information on just saving. So again, I'll do it again. Let's say this is what our step is going to be, our sequence is going to be. Simple. We're on pattern 3. You're going to hold shift, press the right button. It's going to ask you all, and then you're going to press enter. Below here, the C sharp. Done. And that's it. That's how you save. This has been the Roland P-6, some very introductory novice tutorial portions. If you have any further questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. And of course, yada yada, obligatory helping the algorithms and whatnot. Pleases and thank yous.